Rasheeda Frost, Love and Hip Hop Atlanta's ride-or-die wife, has long been celebrated for standing her ground in the face of grief, treachery, and scandals involving her husband, Kirk Frost. Fans have been shocked to see Rasheeda publicly pardon Kirk for everything from alleged adultery to extramarital affairs throughout the years. At 48, she is finally speaking out about Kirk's extramarital affairs, and I promise you it's not what you may expect. Rasheeda recently gave her honest opinions about the past, the veracity of the rumors, and the reasons behind her protracted silence in an interview that went viral. Her disclosures are more unvarnished and disturbing than anyone could have predicted. We're going into great detail about Rasheeda's shocking disclosures in today's video, including what really happened behind the scenes of Kirk's adultery, how Rasheeda felt during the cheating and baby mama drama on TV, and why she is now coming forward. In 2012, when Love and Hip Hop Atlanta debuted, Rasheeda and Kirk were already well-liked by viewers due to their hustle, commitment to family, and seemingly strong marriage. But that meticulously crafted image began to crumble after just one season, and it crumbled severely. In order to complete the picture, we have verifiable information, chronology breakdowns, and interview footage. You won't want to miss a moment of this heartbreaking breakdown of one of the most dramatic marriages on reality TV. The moment Kirk looked his wife in the eyes and hinted that the baby might not even be his was one of the most uncomfortable and dramatic moments in reality TV history. It raised doubts about Rasheeda's pregnancy's paternity. Every second behind the scenes was seen on camera, and Rasheeda later admitted that she was caught off guard when she initially found out she was expecting, and that instead of being welcomed and supported, she was viewed with distrust on national television. The spectators were shocked. Was that the start of a very real marriage's disintegration? Or was it a publicity hoax to boost ratings? The majority of fans didn't know at the time that Rasheeda recently disclosed that he has suspicions about more than just TV shows. Already, he had been becoming aloof, inquiring about her whereabouts, growing suspicious, and making accusations against her that turned out to be more projection than real worry. It was the start of a serious public humiliation that, in her own words from a recent podcast interview, "I was pregnant and emotional, and suddenly I was fighting for my reputation. On camera, this was more than just a reality show premise. It's not something I signed up for. I was fighting for both my dignity and my baby. If Season 2 planted the seeds of skepticism, Season 3 added gasoline to the flames." Let's revisit one of the most infamous incidents in Atlanta's history of love and hip-hop, the cabin trip. Wasn't just a story element. It was the moment when Kirk Frost moved from being a suspicious spouse to making headlines for a full-fledged scandal when a boy traveled to a remote cabin in the woods, a journey that was ostensibly meant to resolve the emotional impact. Explosive speculations that Kirk would cheat again, physically as well as emotionally, would result from this trip. Jasmine Washington came forward to announce that she was expecting Kirk's child shortly after rumors surfaced that Kirk had slept with her. Yes, Kirk was shown partying with several women, drinking excessively, and eventually acquiring a particular woman on camera during the previous season, while Rasheeda was still in shock by his on-air betrayal. This time it was inevitable, a public controversy involving a child and another woman. In addition to timeline images and receipts, there was a baby boy named Cannon, whom she said was Kirk's kid. Kirk initially denied it, claiming that the dates didn't stack up and that Rasheeda was in the middle of Jasmine's clout chasing again. Rasheeda admitted in a private interview on a podcast earlier this year that she had already suspected Kirk of cheating at the time. But what really got to her was how embarrassing and widely known the entire affair became. This is where Rasheeda's recent confession really hits home. The cameras captured her attempting to maintain her strength, keeping her children under control, and running her business, but they failed to capture the emotional toll it took on her mental health. She added, in addition to losing weight and having trouble sleeping, she felt deceived by Kirk and the entire world for using her suffering for amusement. Rasheeda stayed because she wanted to protect her family, despite friend criticism and pleas from fans, to go. "I didn't even have time to cry before the headlines started rolling in," she said. Rasheeda was struggling with something much more serious behind closed doors that never made it onto the reality show, while the rest of the world was focused on the baby controversy and Kirk's public filth. She eventually opened up in a recent interview, stating that the following emotional desertion was the most agonizing betrayal, not simply Kirk's infidelity or the baby. She also revealed that she was terrified of beginning anew. Kirk eventually submitted to a DNA test, and the findings supported Jasmine's long-standing allegation that he was the father. According to Rasheeda, Kirk took a completely different approach, seldom spoke to her unless the cameras were there, stopped trying and apologizing, and, worst of all, made her feel like the bad guy, as though she was exaggerating and should just move on for show. The infidelity, she claimed, and the shattered pieces of their marriage and herself were evident to everyone, but they failed to notice the coldness he later displayed, the emotional distance, the stillness, and the sense of invisibility I felt in my own house. Love her could be so heartless. She said she would question, was any of it real? When she looked at their wedding photos. Her once reliable boyfriend was now a stranger after her confidence was betrayed. In addition to being emotionally and physically worn out, Rasheeda was balancing managing multiple enterprises, raising her kids, and upholding her public image. Although she admitted to being depressed and even questioning her own worth, it was the discovery of a second phone that Kirk had hidden, a phone she was unaware even existed, and the texts she got on that phone with, "I'm done. I wasn't going to keep bleeding for a man who kept cutting me," I told him over this phone. And the final straw was that he could do all that knowing I had stuck by him through the worst of it. Instead, Rasheeda moved into a different room, ceased talking to him outside of business and co-parenting, and focused on quietly rebuilding herself from the inside out. This is the insane part, though, because she didn't leave. Around this period, she started attending therapy by herself, something she hadn't done in years. If Kirk followed her, it didn't matter to her. This was about her recovery, not theirs. Rasheeda said that after years of emotional walls and quiet, therapy gave her the ability to set limits with Kirk and with herself. Additionally, she asserted that she had at last realized the emotional manipulation she had experienced and the pressure to always be a strong wife. In what she described as an eerily serene yet profoundly unnerving moment, something startled her, and not in the way you might anticipate. Kirk sat her down and told her why he did it. As per Rasheeda, Kirk informed her that he had been grappling with the concept of being a husband in the conventional sense for years, and that he never shared her belief in monogamy. He admitted that, despite their success, having kids and attending movie shoots, he had been silently fighting resentment, not towards Rasheeda, but against the part he felt. "I never saw that growing up, so I didn't know how to be a one-woman man," he told me, forcing me to play. I believed that being loyal did not mean being faithful. Rasheeda's battle was shattered when she learned the truth, that he never truly felt a connection to monogamy. While she was attempting to improve their marriage, she discovered that Kirk was even breaking the rules. She had been blaming herself for years for making him feel less manly by becoming more successful. In the early years of their marriage, he admitted to having multiple affairs, which Rasheeda was not aware of, and most likely would not have learned about if he had come clean. Rasheeda told interviewers that she sat there listening, unable to cry because the agony had numbed her, not because she wasn't hurt. It was similar to listening to someone read the final chapter of a book, except that she remained sat and didn't shout. According to reports, Kirk started crying when she asked him a question that fundamentally changed their relationship dynamic. "Are you telling me because you're ready to lose me, or because you're ready to fight for me for real?" Rather than living up to her expectations, he self-sabotaged because he didn't feel deserving of the type of love she gave him, and he consistently rejected it before it could destroy him. He admitted that he had always feared Rasheeda would leave. him. Although it was a perverted kind of insecurity, Rasheeda saw it as a brief opportunity to explore options beyond infidelity. With ancestral trauma, emotional immaturity, and a pervasive dread of vulnerability, the kind of anxiety Kirk had never confronted until it was nearly too late. The most startling revelation, however, came when Rasheeda admitted that she had fallen in love with a phony Kirk, saying, "I wasn't in love with the man in front of me, but rather, I was in love with the potential of who I wanted him to be." The emotional devastation had previously been revealed, including emotional desertion, a secret kid, dishonest lies, and a heartbreaking confession that left Rasheeda speechless. According to Rasheeda, she had been sincerely attempting to determine her next course of action, praying and keeping a notebook. She couldn't deny the instinct that something was still wrong, but she wasn't prepared to end things. It turned out that week that the advice from her therapist to trust the stillness was hauntingly accurate. Rasheeda was not intended to get the communication, but it happened to arrive through one of their mutual enterprises. Stories of Kirk accidentally syncing a gadget, a message from a very different woman. Not Jasmine, not someone they had dealt with in public, but someone entirely new, and an intimate tone rather than a flirty one. Bringing up their recent supper, the woman thanked Kirk for helping her emotionally. That was the last straw for Rasheeda because it was clear from the context that it was an emotional issue rather than merely a business or one-time mistake. As Rasheeda subsequently remarked, "He just needed to keep seeking connection outside of what we built, and that was enough." She addressed him coolly, without shouting, hurling objects, or having a theatrical outburst. She was just asking him, "Are you still looking for something you haven't found in me after all these years?" Kirk astonished Rasheeda by saying that he felt comfortable venting there and that the relationship was platonic. The fact that he still required someone else to handle his feelings and that he still had to conceal aspects of himself indicated to Rasheeda that this was no longer about adultery, even if he still maintained that nothing physical had occurred. It was the first time in their long, turbulent relationship that Rasheeda took a break. This was a real break, not the reality TV kind we hear about all the time. Moving into her own private place and concentrating solely on herself and their children, she left the marital bedroom. She also imposed tight rules, stating that Kirk would not be able to restore their relationship through presence, apology, or television redemption stories. Deliberate acts, no more flimsy attempts, no more charm followed by mayhem, and Kirk surprisingly agreed in a rare calm moment. He took a step back from the limelight, began going to a therapist on his own, and for the first time in years, he stopped trying to make things better with money, and instead began to listen. But Rasheeda insisted that therapy was necessary before they could ever start living together as partners again, and only if she saw long-lasting improvement, not a way to win her love back. Because it was honest rather than easy, she referred to this period of her life as the most powerful. She even paused the production of some of the love and hip-hop sequences to focus on her business empire, which consists of private courses for mentoring young women and a press store. Her admirers reacted with tremendous support when she began to share tidbits of her recovery process. Not the drama, but the development. Well, where are we now? Rasheeda and Kirk are quietly co-parenting, working together as business partners, and figuring out what it means to be two people who have badly injured each other. She says they are rebuilding but not hurrying. Still look to their past for meaning. She recently said, "I don't know what the future looks like, but I know this. I'm not the same woman who puts up with silence and lies. I'm not scared to leave. If my tranquility is in danger and if we succeed, it will be because we both decided to put in the effort rather than merely acting for the cameras."